I thought I was speaking at 1:40, so I'm a little surprised. Voy a empezar en español y después voy a hablar en inglés. Vivo en los Estados Unidos, pero viví en Costa Rica por un año, cuando tenía 4 años de edad.
Ahorita, no.
Y después vine, mis padres eran misioneros médicos. Mi padre era dentista, mi madre era nurse, no sé cómo se dice en español, sí. Y vivimos en un lugar que se llama San Miguel Acatán, 6 horas arriba de Huehuetenango, con un Mayan tribe, Carnaval se llama. Ustedes hablan inglés, ¿no? ¿O entienden inglés? Muchos, ojalá. Mi español no es muy bueno, he olvidado muchas palabras, entonces voy a hablar en inglés. I'm a U.S. citizen. I live in the United States, and I'm a spoiled American with much more than I need. But when I come to Guatemala, I lived here for 13 years. When I come to Guatemala, I get off the plane, I stand on the ground, and I feel like kissing it. It's like, this is home. This is where my heart is. So I took correspondence school, so I would finish all my studies in about 2 or 3 months, and then I would ride a motorcycle around around the whole country. And I didn't have a driver's license. I was only 14 years old. And you could see I was small, so I got stopped a lot by the police. And I would just show them my I had a fishing license, but it was in English, and so they couldn't read it, and it had stamps, and you Guatemalans love lots of stamps on everything, right? So they would let me go, and one time there was this guardita, this house, this little guardhouse, and he knew, every time. And so I knew he was going to give me a lot of trouble, so I stopped, turned the engine off before I got there, and I pushed it past the guardhouse. And he stopped me, came and asked for my license. And I said, "What? You need a license to push a motorcycle?" When I lived in Guatemala until 1978, it was a very, very dangerous time. And I'm amazed I'm still alive, frankly, because we lived up in the Wild West, and I've seen my friends dig their own graves in long rows of dirt, and then be shot in such a way so that they could fall into their graves, and then the dirt would be piled back on top of them. I've seen many, many people murdered right in front of me with machine guns. The reason we left Guatemala is because we were run out at gunpoint, and they ran us out of our little village, and then they burned our house down. It took 20 years for me to get the courage to come back and visit. I was afraid, and I finally went up to San Miguel Acatán, and I'm digging through the rubble of the house that the rebels burned down during the Civil War, and I find my toys from when I was a little kid. And all of a sudden at that moment, I started crying. And at that moment, I knew that my life had been real. Before that point, I thought it was just a dream. It just seemed impossible, And I've had tremendous luck over my life. I'm smart, I'm a hard worker, and I have a lot of luck. Those three things together make a big difference. So here I am living in this little village of San Miguel Acatan, and with nothing, absolutely nothing. And then 2 weeks ago, Harvard University asked me to come speak to all of their graduates in the master's program. A week before that, I was speaking to all of the employees of Adobe on their 6 worldwide campuses live. And what that comes from is, I attribute much of that to the sense of survival and determination that came from living in Guatemala. When young people get in trouble, what's the common denominator? Why do they get in trouble generally? It's usually because they don't have a job. And so unemployment, high unemployment among youth, is what's causing so many of the problems that are still in Guatemala, even though I'm amazed at how much further along this country is. We've been here for 3 days, and seeing what's happened here over all these years is amazing to me. I congratulate you for fighting a good fight in spite of all of the obstacles that you've had. I am amazed at how much stronger this country is than it was. But for you to go from here to there will take different things. The things that brought you to this point are not going to be the things that take you to the next point. Education is absolutely critical, and we've talked a lot about education already, right? Some great things. I was taking notes, things that I want to remember. But from here forward, we're going to need to give young people jobs, real jobs. It can't be just money that the government gives out or foreign nations give out. It has to be real jobs, and people like you are going to have to be entrepreneurs. You're going to have, what's the word for entrepreneur in Spanish? Okay, so you're still listening. I was just checking. You're going to have to be entrepreneurs, right? And so what I want to talk about is being in the expertise business versus the service business, because unless you are successful in giving jobs to other people, then the progress that the nation is making will stall. And typically we think of all of businesses in 2 categories: manufacturing and service businesses. And I want you to think a little bit differently and think of all businesses in 3 categories: manufacturing, service businesses like dry cleaners, and expertise businesses, okay? Where you're selling your brain. And that's what I want to talk to you about. To take something to market, to sell it, to build it, to get somebody to pay money for it, these are the 6 things that are necessary. You have to have not just a good idea, but a great idea. And there are many great ideas in the world. In fact, I think there are probably way too many great ideas. I have 3 or 4 of them every morning in the shower, depending on whether it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes. A great idea is important, but it's not enough. I get out of the shower and dry off, and if I don't do anything with it, it doesn't go anywhere. You need a marketing plan, and you need good sales implementation. You need capitalization. In other words, money. Quetzales. You need determination and discipline. I've written, my 4th book is coming out shortly. My last book was just named the top 10 books that all entrepreneurs should read by Inc. magazine. I'm very proud of that. And if any of you would like a free copy of that, I will email you a PDF. He's raising his hand over there. I'll email you a PDF of it for free. Just send me your email address. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the difference between somebody who's a published author and somebody who isn't? And I said, there's only one difference, and that's determination. Many of you can write well and you have great ideas. The difference is just discipline. You also need distribution platforms and channels, and you need a lot of luck. I'm 52 years old. I have lived so many lives already, and I still have a list of about 20 that if reincarnation exists, then I'm going to go and look at the list and pick something different next time. But what I tell my clients, and I've advised, I'm a management consultant essentially, and I've advised 650 companies. Huge ones, like I'm a primary advisor for Verizon and for Toyota and Hallmark and on. And then smaller ones, like the ones that you'll be starting. And I always tell everybody, be careful, don't get a big head. Anybody, no matter how smart they are, they're 2 steps away from being homeless and pushing a cart on the street. And whatever you have, whether you're rich, whether you're brilliant, whether you have a huge business, be grateful for it. And that's one of the things that you must look for in the employees that you hire is gratefulness. You are not as amazing as you think you are. And I am not as amazing as I think I am sometimes. And being married is the best way to be reminded of that. Okay. The least important elements of those 6 are a great or good idea or luck. The world doesn't need, like I said, great ideas. We have plenty of great ideas. That's not what's going to change the world. Those are the least 2 important elements of the 6. The most important elements are capitalization. In other words, having enough money. How many businesses do you know that started with a great idea and were run by a great person, but they simply ran out of money before it could get off the ground? Lots of them, right? You need capitalization, and you need a distribution platform and channels. And I personally believe I've got more education than I need or want. High school, college, and then 6 full-time years of graduate school. And high school is I loved high school, and I learned a lot in high school. I didn't learn much beyond that. I was in school for 10 more years full-time, and I don't feel like I learned that much after that. What I did, though, is I built connections with people. That's the main thing that going to a great school does for you. It builds connections with people so that you can take your product to market. Now, I want to talk, so those are the least and the 2 most important. These are separate points. Positioning, marketing, and sales, that's what PMS stands for here. You can see if it applies to the other, but I really mean this, positioning, marketing, and sales. There are 3 distinct disciplines. How many of you own or manage you're the director? How many of you are in that position? You own or you're a manager, and the rest of you are hoping someday to do some of that, okay? When are you most likely to sell harder in a business setting? It's when there's not enough work coming in, right? Right. It's when the pipeline is not as full. Okay. So I can deduce from that you believe that marketing and selling is about getting work in. It's about not having enough work and drawing the work in. So you beat the bushes looking for clients, some of whom are qualified and some of whom are not qualified. And you end up with a mix of clients that are either good or bad. But that's not what it's about. The inevitable conclusion then is that you think that marketing is primarily about getting work in, okay? And I want to change your mind about that. And B, I have my own ride back. So if you don't like me, I'm not going to be walking. I always bring my own car because, if I say something, everybody gets pissed off, then I have to walk home. So I have my own ride. PMS is not about getting work. When you're old, and I see some of you are, even though the lights are down, I can see some of you are even nodding off and know that you're old. But when you're older, let's say you're 60. I'm 52 right now, so 52 is not old. And when I get 60 won't be old either. But so let's say I'm old, whatever that age is, and I look back over my life and I say, I wish I had accomplished more. I wish I'd done bigger and better things with my life. And some of you may even be thinking that right now. You may have a little corner of the world that you're reaching, but you want a bigger platform. You want to be up here. You want to be talking and influencing people. Will the cause for your not making a huge difference in the world be from lack of opportunity, or will it be from lack of focus and hard choices? What do you think? Lack of hard choices. If you go through your life and you don't have enough opportunity, then you're either just starting out at 20 different things. I call that entrepreneurial ADD. And we all have a cousin like that, who just is always starting something and wants money from you to help start it, and they just go from one thing to the next, and it always sounds so promising, right? Or you're just incompetent or stupid. You can see why my career as a motivational speaker has never taken off. It's, what I'm saying essentially is that anybody who's not incompetent gets opportunities. They come your way all the time. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. But if you are not incompetent, if you're a competent person and you get to the end of your life, and if you have not been successful, it will be for one reason, and that reason is because you've not made the tough choices about the opportunities that have come your way. I'm pausing now, not because I don't remember what I'm going to say next, but because I want you to remember what I just said. If you get to the end of your life and you look back and you say, and you're not as effective as you could have been, it will be because of one reason, and that's because you have not focused and chosen and said no to certain opportunities. You have entrepreneurial DNA inside you, and one of the problems is that entrepreneurs literally cannot say no. They're incapable of it. They have to practice it. They have to stand in front of a mirror and go like this and try and say no, and it's very difficult for them. They love opportunity. Like in the U.S., we call that, call it the land of opportunity. And so to be a great entrepreneur, people say, well, you must take every opportunity that comes your way. No, it's not true. You have to say no way more than you have to say yes. If you want to get ahead in your life, you've got to say no much more frequently than you say yes. And so they jump from one opportunity to the next, spreading their expertise wide instead of deep. So you have a certain amount of expertise in this container here. And if you spread it wide across all these things, then you never have an opportunity to dig deep and to become an expert in something. That's what I'm talking about. You folks are not in the service business. Some of you may be in the manufacturing business, which may be a great way to make money. But none of you should be in the service business. You should be in the expertise business. Does that make sense? Okay. You're smart people. I'm amazed at how, as much as I'm in favor of formal education, being around the Canjobal Indians in San Miguel Yucatan and seeing how they can do something with nothing. It's amazing. You know, you give them a bubble gum wrapper and maybe a staple gun, and they can build a space shuttle, you know? You'll always get work because you're smart and you're articulate and you have presence. You'll always get work. What you need is client relationships with distributed control who respect your expertise. So when I'm a consultant, I'm a very successful consultant. I'm not bragging, I'm just telling you the truth. I charge $10,000 US a day to help people, to talk to them. That's just the way it is. There's a lot of things I don't know a whole lot about, but there are some things in the marketplace that I serve the marketing field, I know more than most anybody. And so if they don't want to pay it, then they don't get the advice. But what you're looking for is to have such deep expertise that you have client relationships with distributed control, okay? So this is the second important thing I've said today. The rest of it you can forget. The first one was, remember when I paused, okay? This is the second one. Distributed control with a client. What control does the client have in their relationship with you? They can be passive aggressive, you know what that means? They can pay you slowly or not pay you at all. Or they can be a pain in you know what working with you. They may not give you the materials you need. And ultimately, what can they do? What can a client do? What's the power that the client has? What can they do ultimately? Just fire you, right? Okay. So the best relationships with clients are the ones where there's distributed control. And the control that the client has is easy. We just figured it out in 10 seconds. What control do you have in the relationship? And it's in red here. The power you have in a client relationship is to withhold your expertise. Do you understand that? And you know what that means? It means you have to have expertise to withhold. And, you know, the ultimate test of this is, say you've carefully and diplomatically attempted to work well with a client. Like you've done, on my website, under the frequently asked questions, it says, like, what kind of person are you? And it says, and what I say about myself is that I'm a mix of Simon Cowell and Gregory House. And I'm grumpy. I charge ridiculous fees. I have a terrible bedside manner. I'm impatient. If we set a time to talk on the phone and I time it, if they're 8 minutes late, I don't answer it. I'm not talking to you. You're not taking this seriously. Let's say that you have a good client relationship and you move the needle on their behalf. You know what I mean by move the needle? You make a difference for them. But for some reason, they won't listen to you. So what do? You fire them. If you already have a business, and half of you already do, you have a client right now that you need to fire. Write their name down. Just write it down on something, and Monday, just fire them. It's therapeutic. Every year, you need to fire at least one client because they're either abusive or they don't listen to you. Here's the third thing that I'm going to say that's important, and I'm almost done here. The ultimate test of your depth of expertise is the time it takes for them to replace you. Do you follow me? I've traveled to 42 countries working. I just got back from Mexicali. I've been all over the world working. Why? Is it because I'm the best looking consultant in the world? Hey, why are you laughing? Is it because I'm the cheapest? No. Is it because I'm the closest? No. It's because I'm brilliant about one topic. There's one narrow topic that I know everything about. And that's why they bring me. So I set the rules. Verizon says to me, yeah, we need your help. And I said, yeah, I think I can help you. And I quote them a price, and I said, by the way, that needs to be paid up front, all of it, 100%. And they just laugh. They said, we don't do that. And I said, well, then I don't work for you. So every one of these huge corporations pays up front. And you know why? It's not because I need the cash right now, and I won't be able to eat tomorrow if I don't have their check. It's not that. It's because unless I'm paid completely up front, then I may hold back from telling them the complete truth that the real problem is that they're terrible managers. So the way you launch your expertise is you identify an unmet need, a gap in the marketplace. That's the first step. Second step, you focus on it until you see the patterns and the solutions. Have any of you seen A Beautiful Mind, that movie? Yeah, I cried when I saw that movie. I really did. I cried so hard, it was embarrassing. I laid down on my wife's lap and I just cried. Because I thought, I've met my brother John. But do you remember the scene where all the code is coming down the wall and it looks like nonsense and he's the only person that can understand it? That's because he could see the patterns. Intelligence comes from pattern matching. And that's why you can measure intelligence in young children, because you can see if they can put the toys together right. It's pattern matching. And once you see the patterns, then you can find the solutions and you can develop packages that are built around delivering value. And you make the right hires, not necessarily young people who dress okay and can speak the language okay and have a presence. You have to do that at first because you don't have any money to hire really capable people. But eventually, you hire people who teach you something from the very first day they come to work. And you do the right thing, and to hell with the consequences. I don't care about consequences. I'm ready to die. I don't really care. I've lived a full life. The only reason I'm staying around is for my two boys and my wife. I love what I do for a living, but I've lived a full life. I don't deserve anything more. My little brother came with me and we were walking around Central Park, which probably isn't the safest place in Guatemala City. And twice, drug dealers, just low-level marijuana sellers came over to us, and they were already high. So, I can't bring a gun into Guatemala, so I don't think I have it with me. So I just took my knife out, opened it up, and held it in my hand. And they go running. It's like, I don't care. I've lived a full life. I may die, may even be in Guatemala, who knows. But somebody's going to get hurt during the process, and it's not just going to be me either. So here's the next important point. Always generate more opportunity than capacity to preserve your ability to say no instead of compromising. When you start a business, picture a tall pillar here, and your confidence is down here because it's down here either because your mother hasn't done a good job, and that's what your mother does, right? Your mother raises your confidence in spite of all the evidence to the contrary. But when you go into business, you can't have your mother with you all the time. So what you do, your confidence is based on marketplace acceptance. You throw a price out there for some expertise, and they say yes, and your confidence level rises, okay? And then over here is another pillar, and this is your capacity. And so every time you say yes to opportunity, you hire people to increase your capacity, right? So that they match, so that you get all the work done. And you keep doing that, okay? Now, there's a third pillar over here, and this is your opportunity. And whenever your opportunity rises, you match it with capacity, and you keep going up and up and up and up. And here's the point I'm trying to make. Your opportunity should always be much higher than your capacity. Do you understand what I'm saying so far? And this gap right here, this gap, represents your ability to say no to a bad client. Unless you can say no, you have no power. I make my clients prepay everything. I put it in a separate bank account. If I'm reading through employee surveys before I've really done the hard work, and I think that this person is evil, or, and I won't use another word, I send their money back and say, I don't want to work for you. I can only do that because I have other work that I can fill it with. So always ensure that your opportunity is higher than your capacity. Does that make sense? That's very important to understand as an entrepreneur. Now, I want to say, well, there's not going to be any question and answers. I've talked too long. But I'm just putting this here because if you want to get in touch with me, my email address is at the bottom, david@recourses.com. And I'm going to end by saying one thing. Like I said at the beginning, I love Guatemala. I've been to every single country in the Western Hemisphere, and I love Guatemala. Even though you have the first or the second highest per capita murder rate in the whole Western Hemisphere. I'm going to just try and stay out of the per capita. And I'm a U.S. citizen too. And I want to apologize to you for the many things that the U.S. government has done to hurt your country. Some of our intentions were good, but some of them were very bad. Thank you for having me.